said, I wanted to introduce John, and John, why don't you take it from here?
All right, thanks, Jeff. So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about security around Onshape. So we're going to start off with some fears about people have about moving to cloud and how to keep their data safe, the reality of traditional CAD security, what we could actually do if we had a clean slate, if we could start over from scratch and design a system to work the way we really wanted to, what security protections you get from Onshape, and then some of your responsibilities, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So a little bit about my history. So I've got a security, cloud, and networking software engineering background. I was the founding engineer at CloudSwitch, which was acquired by Verizon. I worked at Silverstream, which was acquired by Novell, and Archivist by Hitachi back in my past here. And since I've been at Onshape, we've built a team here in the operations group from people from RSA, from VMware, HubSpot, and other industries here to help build an operational team that's focused on both scalability, reliability, but also security as well. So there's plenty of fears about moving information to the cloud. There's a lot of high-profile hacks that you've heard about in the news, iCloud, Anthem, Home Depot, Sony. Some of these hacks have come from corporate sources, some of them from actually different countries, and a bunch of the hacks, we actually don't know where they've come from at all. They're sufficiently good at keeping their tracks covered. So the fears for moving your information to the cloud are well-founded, but data theft and loss can happen really anywhere, not just in the cloud. And a lot of the marketing hype that you hear from cloud software providers certainly doesn't help clarify things. The reality is that most security break-ins go unreported. So what is the biggest source of security holes? And that usually ends up being your employees. And it's not malice or incompetence, but it's by either carelessness or a lack of education or just trying to get their job done. They're taking kind of the easy route just to get things done in today's business. So what would be the ideal desktop CAD security? You would have a secure locked room. You'd have a single user with access to that room, no network connectivity, one single application with no other software installed, and no connected devices or open ports. Unfortunately, that's just not practical, and that's not the way CAD users work today. So the reality of desktop CAD security is that workstations are used for multiple applications, email, web browsing. They're also shared by multiple employees. Laptops, which are just everywhere, travel wherever we go. No matter where you are in the world, you have your laptop with you, and they actually end up connecting to a lot of uncontrolled networks. Many uncontrolled copies of CAD that can't be pulled back once released, and all of these things are avenues for viruses, network attacks, data loss, and theft of your intellectual property. So what if we could start from scratch? If we could design a system where all authorized users create and view CAD data at the same time without managing any local files, everyone is always working on the right version, so you never have the problem of a manufacturer actually building or cutting a part that was actually 3 versions old. Users can share and unshare with others. You can determine when you want other people to see the data and when you actually want to be able to pull it back. And you had servers dedicated to running CAD software only. In addition, where the data actually is stored could be in a secure facility with armed guards, 24-hour monitoring on professionally managed servers. That is all you get with Onshape. So the benefits of Onshape is that it's a single source of truth for your CAD data. There's a single data vault that we secure for all of our users so we can actually invest very heavily in protecting it. We follow best practices in key management, and we keep up to date with operating system patches. So a little bit about security technology here. And Joe, feel free to jump in if you have any questions that you want to ask about this at any point either.
Well, I was going to say, there's one, not to jump the gun, but, you might want to talk just about the, when you bring your laptop and move your laptop around and have that data on your particular system, that opens up not only security, but just data. We had a customer who had a theft, right? And if your laptop gets stolen, you're going to lose your data. So there's a whole other aspect to it, right?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Ben Eady, who's one of our early customers, actually posted a comment on our security blog entry this week that he had actually a break-in at his house, and they stole all of his computers. And he did actually lose a bunch of his work, but the projects that he was working on currently with Onshape were safe and untouched, and he was able to actually borrow a computer the next day and continue on that work. So there really is some substantial benefit to having your data secured somewhere else. In addition to having all of that, we actually encrypt the data flowing between your browser or your mobile device and our servers, and we encrypt all of your CAD data. We also encrypt all of the communications between the servers that make up our service. We have very strict controls on our network traffic in and out of our servers, and all of those network controls are described in software, which is code reviewed. It's not done by hand. People aren't going in there and configuring individual rules. It's all managed through a software control process. So when Onshape started, we needed to actually choose an internet cloud provider that would allow us to bring the scale and reliability to the platform that we actually wanted to provide to you, our customers. And so we chose Amazon. And there are a bunch of players out there in the infrastructure as a service web space, but by far the most established and largest player is Amazon. They have excellent reliability and flexibility. They have the high speed and highly available networks and storage. And they have data centers that are actually dispersed around the globe, which we actually use to bring the compute power of Onshape close to you. In addition, the elastic model that Amazon provides allows us to keep the cost of our service low, where we can actually bring up more compute capacity in the US when we have US users using Onshape, and spin it down when we have fewer users there, and actually transfer some of that compute power either to Europe or Asia as we need it. So security is not a set and forget thing. It's not something that you can buy at the beginning of the process, or a single service that will actually make you secure. Security is basically an arms race, and it requires multiple layers of defenses. So you need to have a team that's vigilant about emerging security threats, continually investing in security technology, continuing to improve the technology that they're using, and be aware of what's going on in the market and on the internet, because the threats are dynamic and evolving. There are new threats coming up all the time, new exploits found in operating systems. And protecting your IP is our business. That's the reason that we're here. So there's multiple layers of protection that you get with Onshape. In addition to all of the work that we do internally to manage your data, we actually contract with a third-party service to hack into a test version of Onshape on a continuous basis. These professional security researchers are paid by the vulnerabilities that they find, so they have a great incentive to find holes. They actually get paid for hacks that they can discover. And then whatever they report, we fix in our production service in the next iteration of our software development. In addition, Onshape has internal procedures to protect your intellectual property, so we have a great deal of respect for the work that you do, and we don't take any of that for granted. We will only use your data to fix issues that you report and to improve the reliability of the service.
Hey, John.
Yep.
I know we talked about this yesterday. You know, the hacker, the white hat hackers are not. They don't hack. They're not going after using users' data right now, right? We have other servers that we use for that. So. Yeah.
So we actually have a separate stack that we actually focus these white hackers on. And so they're allowed to do things that we actually wouldn't want them to do to the production service, and they're actually not using any of our real customers' data. They're actually using fake data or data that's been created by Onshape employees.
And I got one more question too. Sorry.
Sure.
We aren't. This is why I tell people when they ask this. Really, I mean, we're not able to see the customer's data either, right? Due to I mean, we're unless they give us permission internally, we don't customers' data.
That's exactly right. I was just actually about to show this. So in addition to not providing any technical tools for anybody working at Onshape to see your data, we actually have procedures and policies where we don't look at customer data unless it's specifically been shared with support. So in the sharing dialog, which I just brought up here, there's actually a link at the bottom which says share with Onshape support. So if you contact support, they're going to you share your document. And that's not a requirement. That is usually a big help for us to diagnose problems, but it is your intellectual property and it's your right to share it. The only reason that we would actually use that data is to fix issues that you report and actually improve the reliability of our service. So we have some responsibilities to you. We need to provide you with highly available storage with good frequent backups. We need to give you servers that are free from viruses. The machines that we set up are single-purpose machines to just run Onshape. That's all they do. None of the machines are configured by hand. They're all set up to provide one single service. We establish good physical controls on all of the sources, so that means that all of the servers that are in Amazon are, again, in those secure data centers with armed guards. And we also provide you robust tools to control who can see your CAD data and what they can do with it through the sharing mechanisms and the rights that they can get through that. So what can you do to protect yourself? In the cloud world, you need to protect your login credentials. You need to use good, unique passwords, and unique meaning don't reuse passwords across other services, the same passwords that you use on other services. And this is just good advice for anybody working on the internet. Don't share your login credentials. With the model that we have here at Onshape, it's really important that individual users have their own set of login credentials so that we know who's doing what. It also helps us in a support case where, especially if you're doing multiple people doing collaboration, we can actually figure out which user's doing what. And then use and understand Onshape's document sharing tools. They're powerful now, and we actually have a lot more improvements coming pipeline here to allow fine-grained control of who can see your documents and what they can do with them. Report suspicious activity to Onshape. So if you see anything that you don't think is working correctly or something that seems inappropriate, let us know and we'll actually take a look at it. In addition to good username and password management, we give you another additional feature here called two-factor authentication. And so in addition to the username and password, if you go into your user account, you can actually turn on two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication works with an app that you can install on your smartphone, and this app will actually generate a unique code every 30 seconds. And so once you sync it up to your account at Onshape, as part of the authentication process, you will get an additional prompt here to enter the code from your smartphone, and that code again changes every 30 seconds. For computers or mobile devices that you actually use all of the time, you can actually check the checkbox here and say, remember this computer for the next 30 days, and we'll actually leave a cookie on that machine so that you don't have to keep putting the code in every time. But what this does is this, even if a hacker was able to get your username and password, they would not be able to log into your account because they would not have this code that changes all of the time. So managing security risk. Let Onshape manage the security risk for you. Again, as we said before, we take extensive precautions to protect intellectual property. We invest in the technology and the people to secure your data, and spend your time what you do best, which is designing great products. One of our promises is we will be transparent and open in all of our communications about security issues affecting the Onshape service. You'll see information in our blog. You'll see information in our status page. You'll see information about this in our communications to you. There's definitely been some reports of some of the other public hacks where companies were not quite as forthcoming with information as we're going to be with you. One of the specific hacks is that one of the companies had 90 days to actually report that their data had been breached, and they actually sent it out to the media on the 89th day. We don't think that's actually respecting our customers, and we strive to be a better company than that. So for more information, you can actually more details about our Onshape security at onshape.com/security. And if you still have any unanswered questions or concerns, feel free to email us at security@onshape.com. So thank you very much for trusting us with your intellectual property and helping us to build a great Onshape. Joe, any questions?
Yeah, there's one. There's a couple, and you mentioned different locations around the world. So does this mean that data is stored in different countries?
At this point, Onshape is a U.S. company, and all of our data storage is actually done in the United States. So we have compute servers that are distributed in Europe and in Asia, but all of the data storage at this point is done in the United States. Some of the countries, especially Germany and France, have laws on the books that are or in progress right now that are talking about requirements for data storage there. And we're going to keep an eye on how those laws develop, and if we need to actually make some changes with the way we do storage in order to comply with those laws, we will.
Okay. Is there? Can you describe like what level of encryption we use? There's a question about what bit, what, how many bits do we encrypt our data?
That's actually kind of a complicated question. So for a lot of it, we use AES 256. If we want to go a little bit more detail, the SSL communication between the browser and our service can actually negotiate with a bunch of different what's called cipher suites. And by design of the service, we actually negotiate only to strong cipher suites. So there are some known ones on the internet that are older and weaker, and we will not let your browser negotiate to those weak ones. In addition, we use only the strongest cipher suites internally in our service and when we actually store your data on disk.
Are there any requirements in the network to set up that allow people to use Onshape? Do they have to do anything on their side, security-wise, to enable it?
There's generally nothing that you need to do. We have had some reports of customers in very secure sites that do not allow WebSocket requests out to our service, and we've had to work with their IT departments to get that resolved. But generally, SSL and port 443 out is all you need to work with Onshape.
And there's another one about what about third-party password programs like LastPass or those types of applications? Are those recommended? Are those good ideas?
So I actually recommend them very highly. Those only work on your local laptop. They help you remember passwords and feed them into your browser. They're incredibly useful for generating strong passwords and helping you use different passwords for all of the different servers. So they very much are recommended.
Oh, I have a question then. What about that? So what's the factor? What's the real truth about passwords? Is it special characters or is it length, or what's a better policy, or what's more important?
All right, so there's two kinds of attacks, right? There's the attack that somebody's going to use because they know you and they're going to try your kid's birthday and they're going to try your grammar school and they're going to try your street that you live on. And so you never want to use any of those things. And then the other kind of attack is a brute force attack where they're going to actually try all kinds of combinations. And our service is very resilient against that. But if they were going to try that, the longer the password is, the better. So the current recommendation is to use a phrase that's only known to you, which is a couple words long. And the length is actually better than the complexity in a lot of those brute force cases.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Special characters really don't matter. It's just the length is the most important thing, right?
That's true.
Don't have common phrases because those could possibly be figured out.
Right. So something silly or something you know from childhood or something like that is often a good one. And again, if you're going to use one password or LastPass, let it generate a password for you of 16 characters of random letters, numbers, and symbols, and you should be pretty good.
How many can we? What's the maximum number of characters for ours?
There's no particular limit. It's probably like 64. It's pretty long.
A paragraph. I'm gonna put the book of the Hobbit in.
There you go.
All right, here's a good one. What about accessing data from former? How do we block former employees from accessing data?
That's a good question. So we have secure access to our production environment, and even in the office here, you have to actually use key-based multi-factor authentication to get in to our secure environment. For any ex-employees, their credentials are actually removed before they leave the building.
And it's all about the system, right? I mean, you have control over adding, removing permissions for the employee, so the system's got that built into it, right?
Absolutely, and also, trust but verify. So even any of the actions that I take, we actually have a record of changes made to the system.
Let's see. So, in general, there's a softball here, but what's more secure, desktop or cloud?
Oh, that is kind of a softball. So, from everything that we've seen here, in order to be both secure and have availability to your data, I think the service that we provide here at Onshape is the better solution.
Well, I use that analogy that the Sony thing. Everyone talks about that Sony hack, and if you just want the kind of case in point, they were broken into. All that stuff was stolen, but it was on their internal desktop system, if you want, their internal network. They also have, I forget the name of it, but they have a cloud-based copy protection scheme for their movies that did not get broken into. So their cloud stuff was the only thing at Sony that remained secure.
Right. And as with a bunch of the other breaks, it was an employee that was compromised that actually gave the hackers access to the system.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of gone through all the questions. So unless someone has another question, you have about another minute or so to ask. But I think we're pretty good.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks, man. So, guys, make sure you go and tell people, anybody that you know that didn't have an opportunity to watch this. This will be on the website, and there's more information. JR also has a blog out there that you should take a look at, which I think goes into detail that we discussed here. So.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more technical detail on our security page off of the Onshape.com site. And again, if you have any questions that weren't answered here or anything about your specific use case, feel free to give us an email at security@onshape.com.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Joe.
You're all thanking us. Bye.